Want to become a better listener? Start here. This is the IssuesWatch podcast. Hi, I'm Don Meyer, Chief Marketing Officer at the New Jersey Society of CPAs, and welcome to the IssuesWatch podcast. Accountants are taking an increasingly visible role within their organizations, working on cross-departmental projects ranging from strategic planning to artificial intelligence initiatives. In addition, they are presenting data to a number of diverse audiences. As a result, employers look for accounting professionals who not only possess financial expertise, but also strong communication skills. Research has shown that effective communication is integral to a career in accounting, which is why students and professionals should seek training that builds interpersonal, verbal, and written skills. Here with me to discuss how actively managing and monitoring these skills can yield dividends on your career investment is Dave Delaney, founder of Futureforth and author of acclaimed books, New Business Networking and The NICE Method. He is a communication connoisseur and the creator of the NICE Method. Welcome, Dave.
Thank you. Yes, it's wonderful to see you.
And I guess technically I could say welcome back since you were a keynote speaker at our convention back in June, but this is your first time on the podcast.
It is my first time, yeah, but I absolutely loved the convention, by the way. It was such an incredible event and I met so many awesome people. So yeah, it was great. I learned a whole bunch too, and usually with, numbers and the smart work that y'all do, I'm usually not very savvy, so it was great.
Well, you're probably more savvy than you think, but yeah, that event is unique. I mean, we do hundreds of events over the course of the year, but there's a different energy at that event than any other event that we do. And I don't think it's because, maybe it's a little bit because it's in Atlantic City, but I think it's just something about that event that gets people more energized and enthusiastic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's start with your NICE method. You described it at the convention, but tell us what it is. Tell us, the listeners, what it is, and how does it help professionals enhance their communication skills?
Great question. So the NICE method is a way to help improve communication skills, right? So it breaks down into three kind of core concepts or sections of it. The first is about hearing your team, hearing your people, not just your team, but your customers, your prospects, all of that. So the first is around hearing your people. The second is about overcoming, it's about thinking outside of the walls of the organization, and that could be virtual as well. So it's coming up with new creative ways to grow relationships at work while giving back and supporting your local community. And so really, like, what the NICE method is about and also about fear, like overcoming fear. That's a big part of it as well. So yeah, but the way it helps you improve your communication skills is it helps to teach people to be nicer, to lead with acceptance, and to treat one another, not just at work, but even outside of work, better. And so, that was what my keynote that I did for you, the Master Communicator's Secret Weapon. I revealed that secret weapon that you can use to improve your communication skills. And so, yeah, it's all about ultimately, SHRM did a study a number of years ago, the Society for Human Resources Management, that it costs between 6 to 9 months a person's salary to replace them if they quit. And so, with the Great Resignation and all of these reasons why people end up leaving, something else that can happen as a result of that is what's called employee churn, or I like Adam Grant has a name for it, turnover contagion, which is when one person leaves your team, suddenly quits, other people start to follow. And so that calculation, it costs 6 to 9 months that salary. So like a $60,000 employee costs roughly $30,000 to $45,000 to replace that person. And so this all adds up, and the whole purpose of the NICE method, my keynote presentations that fit into the NICE method, the workshops I do, the training I do, it all revolves around improving our communication skills ultimately and approaching things in a nicer way to retain talent, grow our cultures, and just enjoy our work.
Yeah, I think we could all stand to be a little bit nicer. That seems to be one quality that's lacking in the world at the moment. And I don't just mean on social media.
Yeah. Social media is it's an interesting beast, and I'm an early adopter into social. I did work with Google for about 5 years, and LinkedIn and others. So I've always been kind of nerdy that way. And I've been on Twitter since February '07, and LinkedIn for I think 15 years now. And I started podcasting 18 years ago, which is crazy. So I've always been an early adopter in these technologies. But it's interesting that you mentioned that, because it took me a long time to realize, like, I always thought I was an early adopter in technology because I'm a nerd, and I am kind of still. But what I realized is it wasn't so much about the tech or the software or these platforms. It was more about the way to use them to connect with other people and communicate. And I realized that's what I get most excited about. So that's why Twitter was so near and dear to my heart for many years, because it was such an interesting way to meet new people and to grow relationships, and then ultimately to meet up I even used to organize tweet ups, they were called, but of course I don't even know what they're called these days. X ups, if that even happens, who knows?
So at the convention, you mentioned 3 steps for better communication. Those were lead with acceptance, be a better listener, and don't fear failure. So what do you mean by lead with acceptance?
Yeah, so leading with acceptance means to make your people feel empowered, make your, and again, as I said, you can replace people or employee with, team member, or that would be the same thing, or customers or clients or prospects. It's all really the same. And so to lead with acceptance means to actually accept opportunities. And in the Master Communicator Secret Weapon, that keynote presentation I did, I revealed what that secret weapon is that I use. And so we went through an exercise called Nice And, which teaches teams to use that. And by using that, what happens is then you accept opportunities, you accept ideas. And I should back up here and say, like, I'm not suggesting that you just accept every idea under the sun. You're not going to take millions of dollars and put them into R&D and start doing the thing without, proper research and all things. So by leading with acceptance, what it means is slowing yourself down from saying no all the time. So often we say no, or we don't do that. And we shut ideas down. So if a team member or someone else suggests something to you, because you don't normally do that, you may say no. And that, there's a line, innovate or die. And it's a scary line, but it's true. Like we have to innovate our businesses. We have to, at least try new technologies and new things to be able to experiment and see what is working and what's not. And sometimes if we don't do that, what happens is we die, we go out of business because we didn't try new things. So it all comes down to leading with acceptance and empowering people.
And I guess another way of saying no without saying no is saying but.
Right.
So, yeah, that's a great idea, but
yeah,
we should not do it.
Exactly. Right. So yeah, and the exercise that I do, in workshops and in presentations, like I did for y'all, is, we go through we say nice and then we also do nice but, and I should, for HR folks, that's 1T, just to be clear. So, and we could, if we have time, we could do that now if you wanted to go through the nice and example if you'd like.
All right, let's give it a shot.
Okay, so Don, just give me like any object you would find in a CPA's office.
A coffee mug.
Okay, perfect. Yes, we are all fully caffeinated. So just answer each part of this sentence or each sentence that you reply to me with. We're gonna have a conversation, but we're gonna say nice and. So let's pretend you're the boss, I'm the employee, and I say, Don, I've got this new coffee cup, and you say nice and whatever you want to say. So go for it.
Nice. And what do you drink?
Nice. And I love coffee.
Nice. And I never had a real taste for coffee, but I love tea. I love Earl Grey tea.
Nice. And I happen to have a whole box of tea right here, Earl Grey.
Nice. And what I like to do is my wife has a collection of Starbucks coffee mugs she's collected from different places around the country. I like to use those for my tea.
Nice. And why don't we take those mugs, mass produce them, and start selling them as our own tea mugs?
Nice. And I could do that on eBay. I like to sell things on eBay, like my son's old toys and things like that. That's a great idea.
Okay, so you see how you were accepting. So we were leading with acceptance. Each of us kept building upon the conversation. Now we'll try it again with nice, but we'll just for the sake of time, we'll say a coffee cup. So, hey, Don, I've got this new coffee cup.
Nice, but I don't drink coffee.
Nice, but I know you like tea.
Nice, but I'm not sure that I really have a need for a coffee cup in my office.
Nice, but this one I brought especially for you.
Nice, but no, thank you.
Okay, so you saw what happened there, right? You were just it's often called blocking, where you're just saying no or nice, but you're blocking any idea I have for you. And so this applies to work because, and the story I shared in that keynote is sometimes like I was offering an idea to a CEO at my company I worked for once, and he said, "That's the stupidest idea I've ever heard," instead of something else. So he could have said, and it may have been a bad idea, who knows, but he could have said nice and let's talk about it more after the meeting so I can understand what you're saying or have a better, clearer picture. Or nice and let's talk to sales to see if this is something our customers are asking for. And just by having that, by leading with acceptance, you're empowering your team members, you're making them feel heard, and good things can come. Companies pivot, they add new products and features. Sometimes, depending on the size of the company, the CEO or somebody on the leadership team may not be familiar or not familiar, but they may not have their boots on the ground and be aware of what is happening in the marketplace currently that their sales team are facing. So they might, by leading with acceptance that way. And so this exercise that I do for companies, when I do workshops or virtual training or in-person keynotes at retreats or conventions, when I do all of that, everybody starts using nice and that's when the magic happens.
Right, and I would imagine, so that brings me to the next point about practicing being a better listener. I would imagine when you practice that method, it forces you to be a better listener because you have to listen to what the person's saying so that then you know how to respond.
Exactly. Yes. It
Yeah.
slows you down long enough to listen, right? The old 2 ears, 1 mouth thing, right? We have 2 ears so we can listen more than we speak. And so that is a big part of, improving our listening skills. I go into a whole section of that presentation about active listening, which I know we don't have time for right now, but what you want to be doing when you're speaking with somebody is focus on listening and focus on asking open-ended questions as well, rather than just yes, no answers, those short answers. Give people an opportunity to speak with you. And again, always in your mind, think like, am I the one doing all the talking? Because if you are, you're not listening because we can't talk and listen at the same time.
All right. So you mentioned earlier in the podcast, you mentioned failure or fear of failure.
Mm-hmm.
How does that get in the way of enhancing your communication skills?
Big time. The example I gave earlier where I pitched an idea for something to a CEO in front of other people, in front of other leaders in the organization. And when he said, that's the stupidest idea I've ever heard, how many more ideas do you think I shared in my tenure there?
Right. 0, I'm sure.
0. Yeah. And so, in order to reduce, you want to focus on being a leader that is approachable, somebody that your team, enjoys and likes and isn't afraid of, because, the whole line that people don't quit, they don't quit bad companies, they quit bad bosses. And so it's so crucial that you focus on this.
Okay. And I would imagine that when it comes to just sort of communication skills in general, even that exercise that we did, people just have a fear of doing something like that, even practicing something like that, because they don't want to look foolish. They don't want to look silly or something like that.
Right.
Are there things that people can do to get over that fear? Is it just a matter of just, you got to stick your neck out and just keep trying it and trying it and trying it, and over time you'll just get better?
Yeah, it is that. It's also, my daughter just got her first job, and I gave her the same advice that I gave my son, which is something that I give others too. Um, Especially if you are new, if you're new and you've just been hired, it is a great time to ask all the silliest questions you can think of. Because it's a lot more difficult when you've been working at a company for 2 months and you don't know where the bathrooms are yet, or or you don't know specifics about working with a client. And we've all been there before, and so it's important to ask those questions. It also is important as a leader, something that I talk about in the NICE method, which, by the way, I'll give you a code you can use so everybody can download a free copy of that if they'd like. Um, the one of the things that I suggest is what I call ask me anything coffees, AMA coffees. Getting back to that coffee theme, which is, as a manager or a leader, scheduling a little bit of open time on your calendar each week. It could be an hour, it could be a couple 15-minute blocks, whatever it is, and call that your AMA coffees. And if you have an office and you're all working in the office, have your office door open. Make yourself accessible to your team, and let them know you can come and ask me anything within reason, of course. And let's have a coffee. You can bring a coffee, or we can go have a coffee, depending on your work arrangement. But it's an opportunity, or do this virtually too, where you allow your team to come and ask questions. So that way, and it's an ask me anything question in the sense that you will not scold them. You will not be upset with them. So it's a perfect opportunity to make your team feel comfortable enough to approach you and ask you a question that they might be embarrassed about because they should have known, but they didn't know. And so it just makes you more approachable. It reduces fear in the workplace and also helps with retention.
Right. Okay. Now, the communication skills that we've been talking about, ideally, we would start to develop those skills in college or even high school. But often students graduate without knowing the first thing about these skills, not only not how to do them, but how important they are. So what do you think companies should do to help employees, and what can employees do to improve their skills on their own?
Yeah, great question. And it's so important. For companies, you can invest in, professional development. Obviously, I would be silly not to plug myself here, because I do a lot of virtual and in-person training for companies, big and small. Sometimes I'm hired to come to a company retreat and speak to the team and do some workshops. Sometimes it's just online, but I think, regardless of who you choose, I think investing in professional development is a great way to help your team members grow. And you also, if you're the leader of the organization, it helps you learn as well. So it's not something you just do and hand off to your team, but participate, be part of that. For individuals, I think I'll let you know. So if you go to nicemethod.us or .us, I prefer .us, and use IssuesWatch as the code, you will get a free copy of the NICE method. I call it my mini ebook, but you can get a free copy of that right now. So head over for that, regardless of where you are in the organization, because there's something there for everybody. So on an individual level, start there. And of course, I'm more than happy to answer your questions about any of it. So, reach out anytime.
That's great. Really appreciate that. And just to sum up, would you say it's fair to say that developing communication skills, it's a lifelong pursuit? You never reach a point where you're like, I'm done, I'm good, I'm as good as this at this as I'm ever going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. It is a lifelong thing. I mean, during 2020, when, the world was imploding and, there's obviously a lot of bad stuff happening. In addition to that, there was a tornado in Nashville where I am, and our kids' school was destroyed. And on top of that, 3 months later, another storm came through and knocked us out of our house for 3 months with 10 holes in our roof, and we lost 7 trees. It was a pretty stressful time dealing with, all the ramifications of that, plus, a pandemic. And so I started taking mindfulness and meditation much more seriously. And so I started a daily meditation practice. And I'm not suggesting, I'm not saying woo, it's a woo woo or anything like that. But what I found in that is this, especially with mindfulness as a result of meditation, is it slows me down enough to change my perspective on different matters, different situations, different things. It's also called reframing in psychology. And what it is it's you approach something in a different way, or you change your perspective on it. One great example of this is the feeling so if you don't like public speaking, and apparently that is feared more than death, which Jerry Seinfeld had a great joke about, where he said, that means that you would be more likely to be more comfortable in the casket than giving the eulogy, which,
right.
Obviously, yeah. In fact, you mentioned that joke, actually. I remember that.
I think I did.
At the convention. Yeah.
Yes.
But I brought that up because with public speaking, if you've practiced and you've rehearsed and you know your stuff, and you feel, you've done what you need to do. I'm not saying dialing it in, just getting up there and winging it. But if you've practiced, rehearsed, done all the things, you may feel really nervous going up on stage. But the feelings of nervousness, the butterflies in the stomach, the goosebumps or chill bumps, the sweats, anything like that, shortness of breath, that's also the same symptoms, or call them symptoms, but the same thing that you feel when you're excited. Right. And so changing your focus and thinking, wait a minute, maybe I'm really excited because I've got this great content to share. I'm going to help these people today. If one person comes away learning something new and they use it and it changes their life or their business, then, I've done my job. And so it's about reframing your thoughts on things. And this is something that I've been speaking a lot about and writing about as well. So just one aspect of this that I thought I'd mention too.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I think a great way to leave it. So, Dave, we really appreciate you speaking at the convention. We appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to hearing from everybody. Reach out.
Thanks for listening and watching. To download the NICE method for free, visit nicemethod.us and enter code IssuesWatch. For articles, events, and resources to help you hone your skills and advance your career, visit njcpa.org/career.